Since late August, 20 provinces in China have been experiencing power outages and curtailments, affecting both industrial production and people's daily lives. Meanwhile, coal prices have soared. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, from late August to early October, thermal coal prices rose by more than 45%. The price of Shanxi high-quality coal, a benchmark thermal coal type, hit a record high of 2,292.5 RMB per ton at Qinghuangdao port on October 15th, soaring 143% from late August. In September, China increased its coal imports. According to customs data, the country imported 33 million tons of coal in September, up 17.2% month-on-month and 76.1% year-on-year. From January to September, the country imported 230 million tons of coal in total. Since October, power restrictions continue to be imposed in many provinces and cities. In recent days, most areas in eastern and central China have seen gale-force winds and cooling weather. The temperature in many areas dropped by 10 degrees Celsius, and in many places the temperature dropped by more than 4 degrees Celsius in one day. Temperatures in north, northeast, and northwest China dropped below 0 degrees Celsius. Mainland media reported that sudden temperature drops are starting around the country. Jilin, Heilongjiang, and Liaoning suffered severe power shortages last month. These three provinces, along with Inner Mongolia and Gansu, have begun winter heating, further increasing the problem of tight coal supplies. At a critical time for coal supply, China's largest coal-producing province, Shanxi, was hit by days of heavy rain and numerous flooding disasters, which led to the shutdown of 60 coal mines, making the coal supply even tighter. On October 14th, China's National Bureau of Statistics announced that the Industrial Producer Price Index, or PPI, rose 10.7% year-on-year in September, a record high in 25 years. While the Consumer Price Index, CPI, rose 0.7% year-on-year in September, the lowest level in 6 months. On the same day, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang visited Shunde, Guangdong Province, and inspected a thermal power plant. Li Keqiang said that the increase in electricity prices would not cause inflation because China's inflation is based on food prices. Li Keqiang's words reveal the reality of China's inflation statistics. China's CPI statistics do not include a number of main expenditures such as housing expenses, electricity bills, and rents, which account for a large share of the total. Therefore, China's CPI has remained stable for a long time. On October 8th, Li Keqiang presided over an executive meeting of the State Council to discuss energy supply issues. The meeting decided to adjust the fluctuation range of electricity prices from plus or minus 10% to no more than plus or minus 20% in principle, while maintaining the stability of electricity prices for residents, agriculture, and public welfare undertakings. For high energy consuming industries, prices can be determined by the market and are not subjected to the plus or minus 20% range restriction. This is equivalent to approving an increase in electricity prices to encourage power plants to generate electricity. So does China lack coal or electricity? Let's look at China's power generation first. China's electricity supply is handled by two state-owned enterprises. One is the State Grid Corporation of China, and the other is China Southern Power Grid. According to China's Electric Power Law, Article 35 stipulates that the prices of electricity refers to the feed-in price for electric power producers, the price of mutual supply between power grids, and the price of electricity sold on the grid. Electricity prices are subject to a unified policy, unified pricing principle, and hierarchical management. The price of electricity is determined by the National Development and Reform Commission based on electricity sales. China's electricity prices have not been adjusted for more than a decade. According to China's National Energy Information Platform, in 2020, the country's full-caliber installed power generation capacity reached 2.2 billion kilowatts, an increase of 9.5%. In 2020, the national installed thermal power capacity reached 1.25 billion kilowatts, accounting for 57% of all installed capacity. Among them, the installed capacity of coal power is 1.1 billion kilowatts, accounting for 49% of the total. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, in 2020, China's total power generation is 7.4 trillion kilowatt hours, and the total thermal power generation is 5.3 trillion kilowatt hours, accounting for 71% of the total. It can be seen that the utilization rate of total installed power generation capacity is only 38.5%, and the utilization rate of thermal power generation capacity is 48.4%. If only coal is used to generate electricity, when the capacity utilization rate reaches 69%, it can meet the national demand for electricity. This shows that China's power generation capacity is not fully utilized. Although thermal power generation capacity has an overwhelming surplus, with 37 million kilowatts added in 2020, a growth rate of 3.8%. Why are there so many new coal-fired power plants built despite overcapacity? It has to do with China's carbon trading market. In fact, the Paris Climate Agreement has no carbon emission limit for China before 2030, and only requires China to reach its peak carbon emission in 2030. The Chinese government sees profitability. On the one hand, it wants to push carbon emissions to a high level before 2030, and then use that carbon emission value as the baseline, so it is currently increasing the construction of thermal power plants. On the other hand, it pretended to work hard to promote carbon peak and carbon neutrality. On July 16, 2021, the Chinese government launched the National Carbon Emission Online Trading System and began to collect carbon taxes. The establishment of many power plants was not intended to generate electricity, but to obtain a carbon emission quota and then sell carbon emission rights to make money. Coupled with high coal prices and low electricity prices, many power generation companies choose to lie flat. Let's look at China's coal production and consumption. China is the largest coal producer and consumer. In the past 10 years, China's annual coal production has been more than 3.4 billion tons, and the output in 2020 is 3.9 billion tons, accounting for 50.4% of the world's total output. In 2020, China imported 304 million tons of coal, making it the largest coal importer. Last year, China's coal consumption accounts for 54.3% of the world's total coal consumption. China's total energy consumption in 2020 is 4.98 billion tons of standard coal equivalent, of which coal accounts for 56.8%. For a long time, coal has accounted for more than 50% of China's total energy consumption. From January to August this year, China produced 2.6 billion tons of coal and imported 197 million tons. By 2020, China's proven coal reserves is 143.2 billion tons, ranking 4th in the world, and its total coal resources is 5.9 trillion tons. Of China's 28 provinces, 24 have coal resources. 8 provinces have coal productions over 100 million and a combined total of 3.5 billion tons, accounting for 90% of the total production. China's energy consumption is mainly concentrated in the economically developed areas along the eastern coast, especially along the southeast coast, so there is a transportation problem from the places of coal production to the places of consumption. In the first 3 quarters of 2021, the capacity utilization rate of the national coal mining and washing industry was 73.4%. From this, we can see that China really doesn't lack coal, and also has sufficient production capacity. However, in 2008, China began to substantially increase coal imports and became a net coal importer. Since then, China's coal imports have generally fluctuated upwards. Its net coal imports in 2020 is 304 million tons. As long as the utilization rate of production capacity increases just a little, China's coal production can be fully self-sufficient. If Chinese companies need to import coal, they need to first apply for a coal import qualification certificate, which is subject to government approval. China's coal imports are mainly handled by China National Coal Group, a company owned by the central government. Although imported coal only accounts for a few percentages of the total annual coal consumption, imported coal can still play a role in affecting China's domestic coal prices. The greater the proportion of imported coal in total consumption, the greater the impact on balancing coal prices. That is, the pricing power of coal is in the hands of central enterprises to a certain extent. As for coal production, most of the production capacity is controlled by state-owned enterprises. In 2021, there are 36 coal-producing companies with an annual production capacity of 10 million tons or more. The total production capacity is 2.7 billion tons, accounting for 70% of China's total coal production capacity. Of these, 3 are private enterprises with a total production capacity of 101 million tons. There's no shortage of coal in China, and the utilization rate of coal production capacity is not high. Why does China import a large number of coal? All of this is to achieve one goal, which is the state's absolute control over coal production and supply through state-owned enterprises. In order to achieve this goal, in addition to importing coal to affect prices, other methods have been adopted, such as the elimination of the so-called outdated production capacity, mineral rights management, and administrative intervention in production. On February 5, 2016, the State Council of China issued the Opinions of the State Council on Resolving Excessive Capacity in the Coal Industry and Realizing Development, which mentioned that the goal is, starting from 2016, use 3 to 5 years to cut 5 million tons of coal production capacity and to reduce or restructure 500 million tons, greatly reduce coal production capacity and moderately reduce the number of coal mines. On March 3, 2021, the China Coal Industry Association, CCA, released a report on the reform and development of China's coal industry, stating that from 2016 to 2020, a total of 5,500 coal mines were closed. 1 billion tons of outdated coal production capacity was cut. By the end of 2020, the number of coal mines nationwide is reduced to 4,700, and the average single-pit annual capacity increases from 350,000 tons to 1.5 million tons. A large number of private coal mines are closed or merged with state-owned enterprises. China's coal enterprises, some are owned by central government, some are owned by local governments, and some are private. In previous years, there were also labor camp coal mines, which were later merged with state-owned enterprises. As for mineral rights, the government's approach can be seen in the Shanxi 100 billion mineral rights case. Between 2006 and 2019, a dispute over mineral rights occurred between the private enterprise Shanxi Yulin Kaiqilai Energy Investment Corporation and the Xi'an Geological and Mineral Exploration and Development Institute, a provincial enterprise of Shanxi Province. The contract between the two parties agreed that Kaiqilai would pay Xi'an Institute a preliminary exploration cost of 12 million RMB, and the Xi'an Institute agreed that Kaiqilai would own 80% of the mineral rights of the exploration area. The service area is located in Hengshan County, Shanxi Province, with an area of 339 square kilometers. The coal resources are 1.6 billion tons, and the recoverable resources is 1.1 billion tons, valued at 100 billion RMB. After paying the exploration fee, Kaiqilai did not obtain the agreed mineral rights. Legal proceedings took place between Kaiqilai and Xi'an Institute. The case file was lost during the trial of the Supreme People's Court, and a number of court leaders, including Supreme Court President Zhou Qiang, interfered directly in the trial. Kaiqilai was eventually investigated. After the investigation results were released on February 22, 2019, Zhao Faqi, the owner of Kaiqilai, was presumed to be out of touch by a New York Times reporter, saying that Zhao's phone was off the entire time. As for administrative intervention in coal production, it refers to the government's campaign-like, unexpected, and irregular orders to stop production. For example, large-scale meetings or events need to create a festive atmosphere and ensure that the air quality is good. At the same time, to avoid losing face due to safety accidents, surrounding coal mines and other industrial enterprises are ordered to suspend production. On July 1st this year, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the CCP, Xi Jinping hosted a grand celebration in Beijing. The government of Qinshui County in Shanxi required all coal mines in the county to suspend production from June 18th to July 2nd. The government of Yangcheng County, Shanxi Province, required all coal mines to cease production from June 19th to June 26th, and gradually resume production after July 2nd. Poor air quality, reduction of smog, building a clean city, safety inspections, and no safety accidents on important days, such as National Day and New Year's, are all reasons for the government to issue a production suspension notice. Compared with state-owned enterprises, private enterprises cannot withstand this, so many private coal mines have to withdraw from this industry. Electricity supply is completely in the hands of the government, and coal production and supply are also gradually going down this path. After the most basic of resources, such as power and energy supply, become completely controlled by the government, all obstacles will be cleared for the government to merge private businesses into its portfolio. All of this points to the final goal of the CCP. State enterprises advance, private sectors retreat, to ultimately achieve a socialist market economic system fully controlled by the Communist Party. In fact, this is also the goal Xi Jinping has worked so hard to achieve over the years, by all means and at all costs.